guys, how's it going? So, the other night at group, I got kind of inspired going over snakes, tracers, and some stuff with a few people from group. Um, a few people, namely one of the girls I hang out with on a regular basis, she was wanting to learn, kind of get into the world of tracers and snakes, so I kind of started going over some stuff and I got inspired to make a tutorial again. I haven't made one in a while, so I'm kind of hashed through this, try to make it not too long. The last one I did, I made it like an hour long, so I'm going to try and break it up into like 2-3 parts. What I'm going to go over is the concepts of snakes, doing them in same time, split time for the first part of this tutorial. The second one, I'll come back and do one on split ops. And then at the end, I'll kind of go over maybe some transitioning theory, just stuff you can build through with them. But mainly what we'll be going through is straight line snakes coming in and out of the body, and then taking those at angles as well. So where that starts off with is you don't have to use just poi for this. You can use multiple different props. I'm sure snaking can be done with hoops. It can be done with clubs. I know it can be done with staffs as well, and a few other props. It just kind of depends on your play with it and what you can get familiarized with the movements. So to start off with, what you need to grind and what you need to work with long term is the concepts of snaking. So what is snaking? Snaking is this kind of sneaky motion where you're sneaking the poi underneath your shoulder or your armpit, which it's pretty much like a hip reel or a shoulder reel like you would build up to with windmills or waist wraps. The only difference is you're really tucking that hand up and underneath. So this motion of taking your hand and tucking it, pointing your hands down and into your armpit will be very beneficial. It's very awkward, but get used to it. So what you can do to start to drill off with is basically spinning with your poi. I'm spinning to my right and forward. And as it's coming on the downbeat, when it's coming right here, I'm going to take that poi and stick it underneath my armpit. And now if I stand in one spot like that and turn a little bit, not all the way, it'll wrap around my arm. So what you want to do is when you snake it in, bring it in and then bring it across your body in a straight line as you possibly can. It will take you some time to kind of figure that out. Take some time to either practice using your shadow as a variation to watch yourself, videotape yourself, you don't have to share it with people, or watch yourself in a mirror or a window or reflection of some form. Only because you will find that if you don't make it clean across your body, you'll start to put your arm down as you come across, and as you come back, you'll do the same thing. You'll just kind of keep it down here. It's not terrible, but what happens when you start building like these really composite, different patterns, when you start building them together all at once, you want to really kind of keep these different lines coming across in and out of your body pretty straight. It's what makes it really pretty, really clean and really nice, and it allows you a little bit more time to work with the different timings as you're going on when you're coming in and out. If you start practicing only down here, you'll have more of a habit of hitting your shoulders coming in and out. And same thing, if you start practicing down here, you'll just be going kind of behind the back. And you really want to accentuate these movements of coming into the body and then across. So, forward, we're going to snake in and then back across the body. To come back out of it, the opposite direction, now that my orientation is to my left, I'm in reverse, I'm going to bring this poi the same thing on the upbeat when it's about here. And I'm going to bring it up to my shoulder, like almost to my neck in this little space right here beside my head. So we're going to come in and over and then back out. Now when it comes over your shoulder, it's very much, again, like a shoulder reel that we're just really isolating a lot. What these feel like, if you want to get a feel for it, as the muscle is more than just trying to snake in and out and get that muscle memory built up, you can get into playing with the linearization ideas, like the linear isolations that kind of build up a lot of these fun different patterns in wall playing. What that consists of is if I'm spinning in reverse, like towards me from my right side, and when the poi is reaching the bottom point of its spin, I'm going to bring my arm across, and then as soon as it hits that point, I'm going to bring it back across. And as it's going up, when it hits that top point, I'm going to go up and then back across. So I'm maintaining this straight line either horizontally or vertically, depending on what I'm choosing, but I'm adding in like a little isolation here in the center. So as soon as it hits that point, I'm isolating and bringing it across, isolating and bring it back across. So this is kind of what you're doing in and out of the body. You're going to kind of isolate in and out of the body, isolate in and out of the body. So that'll kind of give you something to work on long term. And like in the longer road of things, you'll want to do the same thing vertically as well. So you'll start at your bottom, and you'll kind of come up and isolate, up and isolate. And then when you come down, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to want to come down, isolate, down isolate, back forward, or wherever you're going with it. But for here's say, we're just going to go straight lines across the body. So what that looks like from the back view. Spinning forward to my right, I'm going to come underneath, straight across, and then same thing when I'm going back in, I'm going to go over my shoulder and back out. Now, to build upon that, next step. So go drill that with both arms, both directions. Play with the different ideas of it, just in whatever you want to play with. So what we're going to build up to next is doing it in same time, same direction. This is going to be exactly like a hip reel and a shoulder reel. So if you're familiar with just hip reels, and turning in hip reels, and getting familiar with that, and same thing with shoulder reels, being familiar with those, and in both directions will be beneficial, but not exactly needed. This will teach you in the long run, because we're going to be doing hip and shoulder reels, but we're going to be tucking them on our shoulders and tucking them underneath our armpits. One thing I'll say before we get on is to pay attention to this, and I'll try to accentuate this as much as I can throughout the video when I remember. But when the poi are coming into my body or away from my body, I'm doing this weird little motion at top, like on my chest side. When it comes in, I'm really trying to make sure I turn my hand around and I point it towards myself as it's coming across my body. So it ends up kind of being like a tracer where I'm just like tracing that straight line straight across my body, and I'm drawing a straight line with my fingertips across both my shoulders to my other side. And my other hand does the same thing. It's going to come in, straight line across, and when it comes back, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to come underneath and draw that straight line across my chest. So one line's up here at like the clavicle, and one line's kind of about mid-chest, back across. So right underneath my armpit, right at like the apex, like base of like my major and minor pec. So what we do to drill the both hands to get familiar with it before we start splitting up the timings is if you start it in same time, make sure your hands, like how I kind of judge to see if my hands are in good alignment, essentially, so I'm going to stay at that straight line rather than having my hands down and then across, is I will kind of generally look forward and I will see where my thumb are. So where my thumb and my palm is, right here sticking out of my hand, I will kind of aim that for the top of my shoulders, like my first digit of the from the base up of my knuckle. I will aim that at me. If I was like kind of taking my poi and measuring it to my armpit, you know, I kind of aim that line in a straight line when I'm going across my body and to my body, as a practice theory. So it kind of lines it up. So we're in same time, I'm going to my right. Both motions together this time are going to go underneath my armpit and to the other side. So on the in beat right here, that works out well. So at the in beat right here, we're going to tuck underneath the arm and turn. And on the upbeat, right at the top, we're going to go over and out. So under, over, under, over, under, over. Now, if it helps you, this is what it looks like from the back. So if I was doing the same thing to my right, and I'm coming in and then out, in and then out. Pretty simple, right? No, notice like when I mentioned the point where they're coming in, where I'm about to do that, it's kind of like I'm doing a stall. It's kind of like if I was going to come up and just stall them behind my back flat and then turn and then pull them out, but kind of flick them out to kind of get that pop. The same thing underneath is if I was coming in, it'd be like if I was stalling, turning, and then coming out, popping. So you can play with different ideas with that and how that feels. So go drill that, come back, and we'll move on to the split time. So split time with this in the same direction is very similar to what we were just drilling, except for you have this initiatory aspect where one hand initiates before the other hand. And it's because it feels fluid, and sometimes while drilling this at first, if you don't initiate with the one hand to the other hand first from side to side, it ends up tangling really poorly and kind of suck on fire. So in that, if I'm at my right side and I'm facing over here, my right hand is going to go underneath first and then my left hand. So from my right side to my left side, which another thing to point out if you've noticed so far is I'm turning my body completely across. I'm not turning my legs too much. Like my hips are standing in like a wide open where I have my right leg forward, slightly bent with my left leg. And when the poi come in, I'm turning across my chest all at once and then back out. So I'm just rotating my chest back and forth while pivoting on the top of my toe on each individual foot. So I'm just rolling across to kind of give me that motion that I need to kind of get that pop and make it straight. Another thing I'll point out is kind of start to imagine if you had a hook centered right on the top of your clavicle, where it breaks off and divots down, if it was just in the center of your chest, it was pulling your chest up. Get used to having your chest up and pulled up a little more. It'll give you more posture. It'll give you more strength in your core over time as you practice, and it makes it a little bit cleaner. I had a really bad habit, is where I'm going, when I first started, of like hunching over when I was doing patterns, or hunching over trying to get behind the back stuff. And I had to break that because it just caused a lot of messy things to happen. And I didn't realize it until I watched in the mirror that I had a really poor posture. So moving on. So from here, I'm going to start with my right hand underneath my armpit, then my left hand. So lining my arms up, kind of get an idea what they look like. And I'm going right arm, left, back out. And then to come back the opposite way, I'm going to do the same thing, except for I'm going to go left hand, right hand, so the opposite of what we did before. So lining up, seeing where my knuckles are, left hand, right hand. Right hand, left hand, right hand. So it's a pretty easy way to start playing with snakes for some to decide and to get used to them. Just drill that a couple of times if you want. I'll give you kind of a side view, and then I'll give you a back view so you can kind of see what's going on here. So from the side, like I said, my right hand over here, my white poi, is going to go underneath first. So right hand, left hand, right hand. Now, as they're going across to my left side, they're going underneath my armpit. As they're coming across, they're going over my shoulders and back out. Underneath, over top. Underneath, over top. Underneath, over top. Cool. So it makes sense, right? Pretty simple, something easy to work with. Go play with it, have a good time. We're going to move on next to turning in this, and then we're going to build upon that, and we're going to start working with angles, like a big X in front of the body. So, next part, turning. Turning in this is basically kind of the same thing of just looking at orientation. If your pointer's spinning forward, you do a hip reel and you turn around there in reverse, you know you have to go over your shoulders to get back to forward this way, or you have to go over your shoulders or in front of you to go back to forward this way. So it's the same concept where if I turn in reverse and I'm right here, and to turn around I have to go over my shoulders. Because what we were talking about in the first part where we were just going from left to right, right to left, and then we're going back over the shoulders to the same starting point. What now I'm talking about is taking it from underneath to this side, and then turning your body, completely orientating it the opposite direction, and turning over your shoulders and back. One thing that makes this easier for me, I'm not sure if the video is shooting my legs and feet pretty well, but what I'm doing is, like I mentioned, is when I'm over here, I'm trying to keep like my back leg kind of straight at an angle, my front leg bent, so I have a kind of off center about the width of my shoulders, stance with 1 foot back. That way when I turn, I can easily turn front. I'm in wall plane. Then I can turn again, and I'm in the same posture to my left. And then all I have to do is take a step up and a step back, and that allows me to turn around and then step up and then step back, and that brings me back to the original position, essentially. So for turning, it's the same thing. It's just something to experiment and something to play with. I'm going to do it in split time. You can drill it at the same time if you want. So I'm going to turn from my right side to my left side, orientate my feet, so both my feet are facing forward. And then I'm going to take a step back, and then I'm going to go right hand on my shoulder, left hand on my shoulder first. It'll be a right hand, left, and we're back to start. And then, of course, you get the gist from here. You can do the same thing the opposite way. You can go left hand, right hand, and then turn back the other way, and then left hand, right hand. Or right hand, left hand, right hand, left hand, right hand, left hand. Now, why this is important is because what we're going to build up to is being able to not only turn around this in straight lines like a T from side to side, we're going to build into turning in angles with it, which when we get into split opposites, you'll really see the availability that'll give you to play with turning in different flowers, essentially, that are kind of fun. So let's move on to that real quick before I end this for today. So next part is going to be doing this at angles. This is a little bit different, and I'm still kind of sketchy on certain parts of it. But what we're going to do, instead of starting at our right side and left side, we're going to stay at the right or left side. But our ending and start points are going to be slightly different. Whereas my right side, my starting point was my right shoulder, and I was going across to basically my left shoulder or my left side. So I was going from this cube, or this like right angle, to this left angle of right angle. Yeah, weird lingo. So what we're going to start doing next is we're going to start doing this pattern. We're going to raise our arms up. And that way when we come down, we're going from our upper right shoulder down to our left hip rather than our left shoulder. And then vice versa, when we get to our left hip, we're going to be going up and across back to our right shoulder, and then variations of going from right shoulder to left shoulder back and forth. So like an X from side to side, just a straight angle, if you may. So that's a little bit different. It constitutes a little bit different working too as well, because the timing feels weird and it's completely different. But if you start up here and follow the same exact thing as we did before, lining up the shoulders as much as you possibly can, thumbs to the top of your shoulders. And then when you do that, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go right hand in, then left hand. So right, left, we're down at left hip. And then when we're at left hip, we're going to do the same thing to get up as we did to go back. So from left hip, we're going to go left hand, right hand, back up. So you end up with this kind of play on an angle rather than just a straight line that was going from left side to right. It's still primarily a straight line as much as you possibly can, but it's just a different variation of what we were working on earlier. This will open up your ability to turn completely at angles in the flower, so something just fun to play with. Now, it's the same thing in the opposite way. So if we're going from right hand to left, we're going to start at our left shoulder in reverse, and we're going to go left hand, left, right, back down to the bottom. And then back up the same way, right hand, left hand. This will take a little bit more finesse of trying to get that scoop and then at an angle rather than scoop and straight across like we were doing earlier. The same thing coming down, it'll come down over your shoulder, then over the front of your body. So it comes down, over, and then down. So you're going to draw that straight line at an angle across your body, down, and vice versa at an angle up. Now, go drill that a couple times. I'll give you a quick back view of that too as well so you can see it from both sides. So what we were talking about is this. We're talking about going from left side to right side, and then back down, switching, and then our right side back down to our left. Now, trying to keep those at angles as much as you can is kind of a fun trick, because I was telling you not to do this earlier. I was telling you not to let your hands be down here. And that was because it could build you up into straight lines. So you can go straight line, you can go straight line, you can go straight line and then bend it up, and then straight line and then bend it down, and then straight line, bend it up. You get the point. So now turning in that is the next step. So to turn in that, what you're going to do is you're going to start right. Let's our orientation's there. At our right side, we're going to start here. We're going to go down our body to our left and turn around. And then to go back up, we're going to already turn our bodies and reorientate ourselves. And then we're going to go up to here, turn our bodies around, and we end up in the exact same spot where we started. So you go down, you're here, you go up, you're here. Vice versa, you can start it from here and go straight back down here and go left hand, right hand, right hand. And then from here, you're going to go left hand, right hand, up. So that builds up just into your ability into turning. What this will open up later on, it'll make sense to be able to turn in different patterns. So you can kind of do these snaky things where you're snaking around the body a little bit easier. And it opens up that behind the head weird stuff you can do. So I think that pretty much says what I was going to go over for today. I will say on a last note, something to play with is now that you're familiar with the snake ins and snake outs, I will say start playing with one hand, trying to do like an over the head cap. So instead of one hand going underneath the shoulders and then going back over the shoulders, try finding out which one you can kind of go underneath and over and back out, and then same thing the other way, and kind of snake one hand over your head while you're doing it. So it gives you something kind of diverse to play with. Yeah, get the idea. I'll go over the next series after I do the split offs. Will be over the head caps and what to play with those. Cool? Alrighty, thanks for watching.